The average suburban pantry is a carefully constructed illusion. We look at row after row of stacked cereal boxes, bags of dry pasta, uncooked rice, and freeze-dried novelty survival rations, and our brains register a false sense of absolute security. We tell ourselves that if the power grid collapses tomorrow, if a flash flood severes the supply chain, or if a localized disaster cuts off municipal infrastructure for 2 weeks, we are set. But that confidence is built on a massive structural misunderstanding of how human civilization actually functions. Here is the cold, logistical reality that nobody wants to confront. A full pantry is completely useless if every single calorie inside it requires a functional power grid, a pressurized gas line, or municipal running water just to become edible. Take a look at what most self-proclaimed preppers stock up on: dry beans, white rice, dehydrated pasta, raw grains. To turn a single cup of dry rice into something human teeth can chew and human intestines can process, you need two things that vanish the exact second a real crisis strikes: clean, potable water and a sustained heat source. If your municipal water main loses pressure, you are forced to pour your precious, finite drinking reserves directly into a pot of boiling rice. If your electricity snaps off or your gas line is shut down due to seismic risk, that 10-year supply of emergency grain sitting in your basement is nothing more than expensive, inedible ballast. You cannot chew raw kidney beans. In fact, eating undercooked legumes will actively poison you with phytohemagglutinin, causing severe gastrointestinal trauma at the precise moment medical services are completely offline. This is the geographic and infrastructure trap of modern domestic life. We have decoupled food from its immediate consumption. We buy raw materials under the delusion that we are buying sustained life. When a systemic shock hits, whether it is the 2021 Texas power grid collapse, a localized hurricane event, or a sudden aggressive cyber attack on supply chain logistics, the timeline of collapse does not unfold over months. It unfolds in hours. Within 48 hours of a major blackout, municipal water pressure drops to zero as backup diesel generators at pumping stations run out of fuel. Gas lines are intentionally isolated by utility companies to prevent massive suburban fires caused by untracked line ruptures. At that exact moment, the standard American kitchen becomes a museum of useless carbs. Most people building stockpiles right now are actively committing this exact strategic error. They spend hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on bulk raw grains and elaborate, expensive culinary setups, while completely ignoring the cheap, humble, unglamorous items that require zero external inputs. No stove, no camp fuel, no purified water, no mechanical equipment. Items where access is completely unconditional. You open the packaging, you put the food in your mouth, and your body receives immediate, dense, life-sustaining calories. Right now, we are going to dismantle this illusion. We are counting down 12 specific, ultra-resilient, zero-prep foods that you can buy at any standard grocery store today for a fraction of the cost of fancy survival kits. These are non-perishable assets, engineered or naturally structured to survive extreme conditions, require zero heat, and keep your body operating when everything around you has ground to a halt. Starting at number 12, we set the absolute baseline with a military staple that everyone thinks they understand, but almost everyone mismanages. And as we work our way down to number 1, you will discover why a simple, everyday product sitting in your cupboard right now holds the key to surviving a long-term infrastructure collapse for a psychological and physiological reason that 99% of emergency planners completely overlook. Number 12. MREs, meal, ready-to-eat. Starting at the bottom of our list, but make no mistake, number 12 sets the ultimate benchmark for every single food item that follows. The MRE was born out of cold, hard military pragmatism. Designed by the United States Department of Defense to sustain combat soldiers operating in hostile environments where establishing a field kitchen means instant death, the MRE is a masterpiece of thermodynamic engineering. Protein, fat, and carbohydrates are precisely calibrated into a single hermetically sealed unit built to withstand physical drops from low-altitude supply drops, extreme humidity, and aggressive temperature swings. You tear open the heavy-duty retort pouch and you eat. That is the entire operational requirement. No stove, no pan, no preparation. The food inside is pre-cooked, fully sterilized and shelf-stable for years under controlled conditions. But here is the critical catch that most civilian preppers completely fail to calculate. MREs are prohibitively expensive. A single genuine case can easily cost upwards of $120, leading most people to commit one of two fatal mistakes. They either refuse to buy them entirely due to cost, or they buy 3 individual pouches, toss them into a closet, and naively assume their family is fully protected for a major emergency. Neither strategy holds up under real-world conditions. MREs were never designed to be the foundational core of a long-term civilian supply chain. They are high-density, expensive safety nets. They are the absolute last line of defense, the hyper-portable ration you grab when your primary shelter is compromised, when you are forced onto an evacuation route on foot, or when every other supply option has been completely exhausted and the crisis is stretching days past your original projections. That is the exact moment an MRE earns every single cent of its price tag. Think of number 12 as your final operational resort. Every single item below it on this list is designed to keep you from burning through that last resort too soon. The historical vulnerability of modern domestic food supply chains is rooted in systemic shifts toward just-in-time logistics and the complete electrification of residential food preparation over the past century. To understand why a localized infrastructure failure instantly renders 40% of household food reserves inedible, one must examine the specific regulatory, economic, and technological decisions made between 1920 and 2000. Prior to the widespread expansion of the federal electric grid under the Rural Electrification Act of 1936, domestic food storage relied heavily on non-electric, passive preservation techniques, including cold cellars, curing, pickling, and dry smoking. By 1950, over 80% of urban and suburban American households had transitioned to mechanical refrigeration. This technological pivot fundamentally altered consumer purchasing behavior. Households shifted away from high-density, shelf-stable preserved goods toward highly perishable meats, dairy, and cold-stored produce, relying on a continuous, uninterrupted supply of alternating current electricity to maintain thermal safety thresholds below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Simultaneously, the industrialization of the global food distribution apparatus introduced the just-in-time supply model during the late 1970s and 1980s. Designed to minimize warehousing costs, this system relies on automated inventory tracking, rapid highway transportation, and precise delivery schedules. Under standard operational conditions, a typical metropolitan grocery store maintains roughly 3 days of inventory on its retail shelves. In the event of a regional emergency or supply chain disruption, panic buying exhausts that inventory within 6 to 12 hours, leaving the surrounding population entirely dependent on whatever supplies exist within their immediate residences. When power generation halts, the structural flaws of modern residential food storage become apparent within 48 hours. The federal power grid, composed of 3 major interconnections in the contiguous United States, relies on aging transformer infrastructure, with high-voltage units averaging over 38 years of age. During extended blackout events, such as the 2003 Northeast blackout or the February 2021 Texas freeze, thermal power station trips, ice damage, or equipment failures can sever power to millions of residential units simultaneously. In February 2021, over 4.5 million homes in Texas lost electrical power for multiple days during extreme sub-freezing conditions. The freezing temperatures disabled natural gas wellheads, while demand spiked beyond grid generation capacity, forcing the Electric Reliability Council of Texas to order rolling load sheds to prevent total catastrophic grid collapse. Simultaneously, municipal water treatment facilities lost backup power, leading to widespread pressure drops, pipe bursts, and boil water notices, affecting over 12 million residents. During this crisis, thousands of households discovered that their primary food stockpiles consisted of frozen goods that thawed into hazardous waste within 24 to 48 hours, or dry staples that required boiling water and functional stove burners to prepare. Because gas stoves often feature electric igniters and modern safety shutoff valves, and electric ranges are completely non-functional without power, the physical capacity to generate heat vanished alongside the electrical current. Number 11. Tortillas. While commercial white bread remains a staple of American grocery purchases, its physical structure makes it exceptionally poor for long-term emergency preservation. Standard commercial loaf bread contains high moisture levels, low physical density, and minimal structural durability. When exposed to ambient humidity, room temperature bread develops mold, specifically Aspergillus and Penicillium species, within 3 to 5 days of package unsealing. Furthermore, soft bread crumbles under physical compression, rendering it impractical for mobile emergency kits or high-density storage. Commercial flour tortillas present an entirely different physical profile. Processed under high pressure and heat, and formulated with low water activity parameters along with preservatives like calcium propionate and potassium sorbate, unopened flour tortillas maintain shelf stability at room temperature for weeks or months past their manufacture date. Their compressed, low-profile form factor provides high resistance to mechanical crush damage, allowing them to be packed densely in emergency transport bags without loss of integrity. Nutritiously, tortillas serve as a durable, high-density vehicle for other shelf-stable foods. A standard 8-inch flour tortilla provides approximately 140 calories, 4 grams of protein, and 24 grams of carbohydrates. When paired with high-fat or high-protein canned goods, such as peanut butter or canned seafood, a tortilla creates a portable, handheld meal that requires no plates, utensils, or heating equipment, eliminating both preparation steps and sanitation water requirements during an emergency. Number 10. Canned soup. The commercial canning process, pioneered by Nicolas Appert in 1810 and refined industrially throughout the 20th century, utilizes thermal sterilization within hermetically sealed containers. Food items inside steel or aluminium cans are heated to temperatures between 240 and 250 degrees Fahrenheit under pressure, destroying all pathogenic microorganisms, including Clostridium botulinum spores. Because the contents are completely cooked during the industrial canning cycle, commercial canned soup requires no secondary cooking to be consumed safely. While consumers customarily heat soup for sensory preference, cold consumption delivers identical caloric and nutritional value. A standard 19-ounce can of condensed or ready-to-serve meat and vegetable soup contains complete macronutrient profiles, combining dietary fats, proteins, carbohydrates, and bioavailable sodium. The presence of high sodium levels in canned soup, often viewed negatively in routine dietary contexts, serves a specific operational function during an acute crisis. Sodium maintains fluid balance and prevents electrolyte depletion under conditions of physical exertion or heat exposure. Furthermore, the liquid broth component directly contributes to total systemic fluid intake, reducing baseline reliance on pure drinking water storage. A critical design distinction in emergency soup selection lies in the container mechanism. Canned goods requiring a manual rotary can opener introduce a mechanical point of failure. If the tool is misplaced, broken, or unavailable during an evacuation, access to the food becomes restricted. Standardizing a stockpile on pull-tab, pop-top aluminium or steel cans removes this dependency entirely, ensuring immediate, unconditional access to the contents under all environmental conditions. The operational reality of prolonged disaster management demonstrates that caloric intake alone is insufficient to maintain physical endurance and cognitive function. During sustained grid failures, psychological stress, shifts in metabolic output, and fluid imbalance rapidly compromise human performance. The selection of emergency food assets must therefore account for metabolic efficiency, hydration preservation, and physical ease of access. Number 9. Canned fruit. Commercial canned fruit packed in light syrup, heavy syrup, or natural juice offers critical dietary support during prolonged infrastructural failures. Standard processing involves vacuum sealing and high-temperature thermal sterilization, ensuring shelf stability for 2 to 5 years under ambient indoor conditions. From a physiological standpoint, canned fruit provides two vital assets: immediate carbohydrate energy and supplemental hydration. A 15-ounce can of peaches or pineapple contains approximately 200 to 300 calories, primarily in the form of simple sugars like fructose and glucose. These simple carbohydrates absorb rapidly into the bloodstream, bypassing complex digestive processes and providing fast energy during acute physical exertion or cognitive strain. Additionally, the surrounding liquid within the can constitutes 30 to 40% of the total net weight. In scenario modeling where municipal water systems fail, this liquid contributes directly to daily systemic fluid intake. The inclusion of essential micronutrients, particularly vitamin C, supports immune health, which degrades rapidly under conditions of chronic stress, sleep disruption, and thermal exposure. Number 8. Crackers. Dense, low-moisture baked crackers, including saltines, whole-grain crackers, and sea biscuits, are specifically engineered to minimize water activity levels below 0.30. By removing moisture during high-temperature industrial baking, manufacturers inhibit microbial growth and enzymatic rancidity, allowing sealed packaging to remain stable for 12 to 18 months at room temperature. While individual crackers provide modest caloric value, their primary function in an emergency ration system is structural and psychological. Consuming high-protein or high-fat pastes, such as canned meats or nut spreads, directly from a container can cause rapid sensory satiety and nausea under high-stress conditions. Spreading these dense proteins onto a crisp cracker provides necessary textual variety, which encourages consistent caloric consumption. From a behavioral perspective, eating foods that require mechanical chewing slows down consumption rates. This extended eating duration promotes satiety signals in the brain, helping individuals feel full on smaller total quantities of food, thereby extending the operational life of a domestic stockpile. Number 7. Instant oats. Rolled oats undergo commercial steaming and thin rolling during processing, which pre-cooks the oat starch and destabilizes lipolytic enzymes that would otherwise cause rancidity. Unlike steel-cut oats or traditional whole grains, instant oats require no thermal application to break down starches for human digestion. Cold hydration, commonly referred to as cold soaking, fully softens instant oats within 15 to 20 minutes when mixed with ambient temperature water. A single cup of dry instant oats provides approximately 300 calories, 5 grams of dietary fiber, and 10 grams of protein, alongside significant quantities of complex carbohydrates that release glucose steadily into the bloodstream. Combining cold-soaked oats with shelf-stable additives, such as canned fruit juice, nuts, or nut butter, yields a balanced meal that delivers protein, healthy fats, and sustained energy without utilizing cooking fuel, burners, or electrical appliances. Number 6. Nuts. Tree nuts and peanuts, including almonds, walnuts, cashews, and peanuts, represent some of the most nutrient-dense foods available in conventional retail markets. A single 100-gram serving of mixed nuts yields roughly 600 calories, 20 grams of protein, and 50 grams of plant-based lipids. The high energy density of nuts makes them uniquely suited for space-constrained emergency storage and mobile evacuation kits. Furthermore, nuts contain high concentrations of magnesium, potassium, and essential fatty acids. Magnesium plays an essential role in neuromuscular function and stress regulation, while potassium helps maintain cellular fluid equilibrium under conditions of physical exertion. Because nuts contain unsaturated fatty acids, they are susceptible to oxidation over time when exposed to oxygen, light, and elevated ambient temperatures. Commercial nitrogen-flushed, vacuum-sealed foil packaging protects against lipid oxidation, extending shelf life up to 2 years under cool, dark storage conditions. Number 5. Protein bars. Commercially manufactured protein bars are specifically formulated to deliver precise macronutrient ratios in compact, ready-to-eat formats. Constructed from whey protein isolates, soy protein, nut meals, and carbohydrate binders, a standard 60-gram bar provides 200 to 250 calories and 12 to 20 grams of protein. During active evacuations or emergency logistics, individuals often lack the time or stability required to open cans or mix ingredients. Protein bars require zero assembly, zero utensils, and can be consumed while walking, driving, or performing physical work. Maintaining stable blood glucose levels during crises is critical for cognitive processing and executive decision-making.